It starts with a t-shirt, not even a special one, just an old gray workout shirt that used to be black, dangling from her husband's fist like some kind of trophy. "Come get your junk, Tiana," Marcus shouts, his voice booming down the quiet cul-de-sac. "Since you love the streets so much, let the street hold your clothes." He flings the shirt. It arcs in the cool afternoon air and lands on the patchy winter grass, right next to a growing pile of jeans, blouses, and neatly folded work uniforms that are no longer neatly folded. A pair of scrub pants catches on a low branch of the maple tree out front and hangs there like a sad little flag. It's a Thursday at 3 p.m., too early for most people to be home, too late for school traffic. But the neighbors who are home have their blinds just barely cracked, their Ring cameras recording, their phones already in their hands. Some of them pretend to tidy their porch plants. One woman across the street, Mrs. Dawson, stands frozen with a grocery bag still looped around her wrist, oranges visible through the thin plastic. Tiana stands barefoot on the walkway in an oversized t-shirt and leggings, arms wrapped around herself. The cold from the concrete is already numbing her toes, but she barely feels it. Her heart is pounding so hard it almost drowns out Marcus's voice. Almost. "Marcus, stop," she says, trying to keep her voice low, steady. "Please, the neighbors are watching." "That's the point," he snarls, disappearing back into the house. The front door stays wide open, a gaping mouth, swallowing and spitting pieces of her life. Let him see what happens when a woman disrespects her man in his house. His house. He's been saying that for years like a mantra. Never mind the bank statements with her name on the mortgage payment. Never mind her double shifts at the hospital, the nights she came home at 2 a.m., smelling like antiseptic and exhaustion, while he snored on the couch. The next thing he throws is a laundry basket. It hits the porch rail and explodes. Socks. Folded work clothes, a pair of fuzzy house shoes, all scattering like startled birds. "Marcus," she cries, taking a step toward the bottom of the porch steps. "That's my work stuff. I have a shift tomorrow." "Not my problem," he cuts in, reappearing with an armful of hangers. "Maybe you can wear your nurse costume for your new little boyfriend." He pitches the hangers. Plastic clacks against the concrete. A navy scrub top lands by her foot, the hospital logo turned face down in the dirt. There is no boyfriend. There is only an unread DM from a respiratory therapist she works with, asking if she's okay. Marcus saw the notification light up on her phone while it was face up on the coffee table. The message preview just said, "You seemed off today. If you ever need to talk." Marcus didn't read the rest. He didn't need to. "You embarrassing me out here, Tiana," he'd hissed 20 minutes ago in the kitchen, his fingers digging into her arm. "Got men from the hospital texting you like you single." "I can't control who checks on me," she'd said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I told you, he's just a coworker." "Why he know you seemed off then?" Marcus demanded. "'Cause you out here sharing feelings that belong to me, that's why." The argument escalated fast. They always do now. The punchline this time was him yanking open the hall closet, dragging her suitcase out, and shouting, "You want to act like a guest? Cool, guests don't live here." She thought he was bluffing. She should have known better. Now he storms back out again, this time with her jewelry box in one hand and a trash bag in the other. "Marcus, don't you dare," she says, stepping closer to the bottom of the steps. "My grandma's necklace is in there." "You mean my house's necklace?" He smirks, pops the box open with his thumb, and plucks out the thin gold chain with the tiny heart charm, the one her grandmother gave her when she graduated nursing school. "Funny how everything that comes into my house suddenly becomes ours, but when you mad, it's all mine, my stuff, my career." He dangles the necklace like bait. For a split second, Tiana considers charging up the steps, snatching it from his hand, shoving past his broad shoulders, into the hallway that still smells like last night's fried chicken. Then she remembers the last time she tried to squeeze past him when he was like this. She remembers the sound of a picture frame hitting the floor and shattering. She remembers her wrist aching for days, the faint yellow bruise she covered with makeup when patients asked, "Rough week, huh?" Marcus sees the hesitation in her eyes and smiles wider. "That's what I thought," he says softly, almost tenderly. Then he drops the necklace gently into the trash bag and ties it off with a neat knot. Trash with the rest of your attitude. He tosses the bag down the steps. It lands with a heavy thud. Tiana's vision blurs. She blinks hard, fighting the sting. She won't give him the satisfaction of seeing her sob. The screen door across the cul-de-sac creaks. Mr. Alvarez, who walks his dog at exactly 7 p.m. every night and always waves at her car, steps out halfway, then stops, taking in the scene. His dog whines. He hesitates, then slowly steps back inside, letting the door close. No one wants to get involved. Not really. "Tiana, baby," Marcus says loudly, pitching his voice so it carries. "You ain't gotta look so sad. I told you, you can always run back to your mama's." "Oh, wait." He laughs. "You too proud for that, huh? Miss, I pay the light bill? Got nowhere to go now." "That's not fair," she whispers. "I'm the one keeping this place from getting shut off." "I let you pay bills," he spits, "so you can feel useful. Don't get it twisted. This house, this 3-bedroom brick with the white trim and the leaning mailbox, has seen everything." The first night they slept on an air mattress in the living room because the bed frame hadn't arrived yet. The time they painted the guest room yellow for the baby they never had. The Christmas she came home early and surprised him with a 65-inch TV paid in cash. The first time he hit the wall instead of walking away. The first time he told her, voice low and cold, "You lucky I keep a roof over your head," after she came home late from a double shift and forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer. Back then, she told herself he was just stressed. A real man providing was heavy. That's what he always said. "You want to be out here independent?" Marcus is still ranting, pacing the porch like it's a stage and the world is his audience. "Be independent somewhere else. Not in my house. Not with my name on the papers." There it is again. My house. My name. Tiana's jaw tightens. She can see the paperwork in her mind. The closing documents on the kitchen table 3 years ago. The way the loan officer slid the folder toward her side because she was the one with stable income and decent credit. Marcus's credit, shredded from an old car loan and a string of missed payments, had been the reason they almost lost the deal. She remembers the embarrassment on his face, how he refused to look at the loan officer, how she jumped in and said, "It's okay. We can put it in my name. We're married anyway." She told herself it didn't matter whose name was on the deed. They were a team. Now he's using that same house like a stage to strip her of dignity. One shirt, one pair of pants, one memory at a time. A pink hoodie lands near the sidewalk. Her favorite one, soft from years of washes. "Tiana, you okay?" A soft voice comes from behind her. She turns. It's Keisha from next door, still in her hospital badge, keys dangling from her fingers. She must have just gotten home from her own shift. Her eyes are wide with concern. Tiana opens her mouth to say no, to say, "Help me," to say, "Please call somebody." But Marcus's voice booms again from the doorway. "Keisha, you might want to step back," he calls, fake charming. "Wifey decided she don't live here no more. This between me and her." Keisha's gaze flickers between them. She sees the pile of clothes, the trash bag, Tiana's bare feet. Her hand tightens around her bag strap. "Tiana," she says quietly, "if you need somewhere to—" "We good," Marcus snaps. "Mind your business." Keisha flinches. For a heartbeat, the two women lock eyes. In that look, there's a lifetime. Shared break room conversations, swap stories about difficult patients. The time Keisha quietly handed Tiana a flyer for a women's resource center and said, "Just in case you ever need to talk to someone who's not him, Tiana had shoved the flyer into her purse and never called. The memory burns now. She forces a shaky smile. "I'm okay," she lies. "Thanks, girl." Keisha hesitates, then nods slowly and backs away, eyes lingering in apology. The front door slams. Marcus has gone back in for another load. Tiana looks down at her life scattered on the grass. Scrubs, sweaters, a framed photo face down in the dirt. The corner of their wedding album sticking out of the trash bag. Her throat closes. A car rolls slowly past at the end of the cul-de-sac, braking just enough for the driver to take in the scene. Tiana can almost feel the thought forming behind the windshield. Not my business. Keep driving. The humiliation is a living thing, hot and crawling over her skin. But beneath it, something else stirs. Something small. Something stubborn. Because as much as he keeps shouting "my house," there are facts that don't care about his volume. Her name on the mortgage, her pay stubs, her tired hands that turned late-night overtime into every single brick behind him. And somewhere in a bag he hasn't thrown yet, there's a worn-out wallet, a folded flyer from a women's shelter, and a business card from a legal aid attorney she talked to once on her lunch break, and then pretended to forget. She wraps her arms tighter around herself, feeling the cold concrete under her feet, feeling eyes on her from windows and cameras and across the street. Marcus thinks this is the day he finally proves she's nothing without him. He has no idea this might be the day she finally proves he's wrong. She doesn't move right away. From the outside, it probably looks like shock. A woman frozen on the walkway while her life gets thrown onto the grass. But inside, something is clicking into place with the slow, heavy certainty of a lock turning. This isn't the first time Marcus has threatened to put her on the street. It's just the first time he's making good on it in broad daylight. Her mind slips back 6 months to a different room with different fluorescent lighting. Not the front yard. An office. A waiting room at the County Resource Center. The chairs were plastic and too bright, and the posters on the walls all had soft, careful slogans. You deserve safety. Love is not supposed to hurt. She'd sat there in her scrubs, badge still clipped to her top, hands wrapped around a styrofoam cup of coffee gone cold. She told herself she was only there because Keisha insisted. Just talk to them, Keisha had said, pressing the folded flyer into her hand after another one of Marcus's blow-ups. Get some information. Knowing your rights isn't betrayal. The advocate that day had been a middle-aged black woman with short, natural hair and eyes that looked like they'd seen it all and still had room for more. Call me Miss Rhonda, she'd said, not bothering with her last name. Tiana had given her the softest version of the truth she could manage. A raised voice here, a slam door there. How he sometimes grabbed her arm too hard. How he'd once blocked the doorway so she couldn't leave the bedroom until she agreed she was overreacting. She left a lot out. Still, Miss Rhonda had listened without interrupting, just nodding slowly. Has he ever put his hands on you? She finally asked. Not really, Tiana had said quickly. I mean, he hits the wall sometimes. He threw the remote once, but he never She gestured vaguely, unable to say the word she'd been raised to only whisper. Miss Rhonda didn't push. Okay. Has he ever threatened to kick you out? Change the locks? Take your name off anything? Tiana had laughed then, a small, tired sound. Oh, that's his favorite speech. I can have you out of here in 5 minutes. You and your little suitcase. He says it when he's mad. He doesn't mean it. Miss Rhonda's face didn't change. Whose name is on the lease or the deed? Mine, Tiana had answered automatically. Well, only mine. His credit was messed up when we applied, so the bank said it would go smoother if we put it in my name. But he pays some of the bills now. It's our house. Miss Rhonda had leaned forward, folding her hands. "Listen to me carefully, baby," she'd said. "If your name is the only name on the property, he does not get to put you on the street. He does not get to lock you out. If he throws your things out and locks the door on you, that's not marriage problems. That's an illegal lockout and possibly domestic violence, depending on what else he's doing. You have the right to call 911 and say exactly that." Tiana had shifted uncomfortably. "I don't want to get him in trouble. I just want him to stop talking to me like I'm a stray dog he found." "I'm not here to tell you to divorce him," Miss Rhonda had said. "Only you decide that. I'm here to tell you the law doesn't see you as a guest in your own house. If he crosses that line, you don't have to just cry and pack a bag. You can call the sheriff. You can document what he's doing. You can make a report." She'd slid a small stack of things across the table. A card with a 24-hour hotline number, a pamphlet about tenants' rights, another about protective orders, a handwritten note with the name of a legal aid attorney. "Put these somewhere he won't find them," she'd added. "Take photos if he damages your things. Save any mean texts or voicemails. You don't have to use any of this, but if things get worse, you'll be ready." Tiana had nodded, heart pounding. It all felt so dramatic, so serious, too big for what she kept telling herself were just arguments. She'd gone home that day and tucked the papers into a side pocket of her purse, telling herself she was being silly. Over the next few months, she almost forgot about them. Almost, until tonight feels like the day Miss Rhonda was describing. Back in the present, Marcus storms out again with an armful of things from the bathroom. Her hairdryer, a basket of products, a makeup bag that pops open when it hits the porch, brushes rolling down the steps. "Marcus, please," she tries again, voice hoarse. "Just talk to me. You're mad, I get it, but this isn't." He jabs a finger at her. "My talking days are over. I'm done talking. You wanted to act big and bad, questioning me in my own house. Now you can go be big and bad on the curb." "When did I question you?" she asks, even though she knows the answer. He's referring to yesterday, when she'd asked where the $900 was that he promised to put toward the light bill. The email from the power company had come that morning. "Final notice," in big red letters. "I had to cover that car part," he'd snapped. "Why you always watching my money?" "Because if they cut the lights off, they don't care that it was your car part," she'd replied, too tired to sugarcoat it. "They're gonna see my name on that account, Marcus. Mine." He'd gone quiet in that dangerous way he has now, the way that makes the air feel electric. Now that argument is blooming on the grass in front of her, in the form of scattered socks and work shoes. Marcus disappears inside again. For the first time since he began, Tiana stops watching the doorway and looks down at her own hands. They're trembling. She presses her palms against her thighs until the shaking slows. She can feel the eyes again, the neighbors peeking, phones held just low enough not to be obvious. There was a time when that alone would have kept her quiet. Her mama raised her on phrases like, "Don't air your dirty laundry," and "What happens in the house stays in the house." The idea of calling the law on her husband would have felt like betraying her whole upbringing. But her mama also said, "Don't let nobody talk to you like you're less than a child of God." And right now, watching her work shoes roll into the gutter, it's hard to argue that this is just a private spat. Her mind flickers to something else. A Tuesday night on her lunch break, sitting in the hospital stairwell with her phone, talking to a stranger from legal aid who spoke firmly but kindly. "Ma'am, if your name is the one on the mortgage, you have every right to be in that house," the attorney had said. "If he locks you out, call 911 and use the words illegal lockout and domestic disturbance. If you feel unsafe, you can also request an officer to stand by while you get your belongings or ask about a protective order. Document everything. Dates, times, pictures. I know it feels scary, but the more you have written down, the more power you have later." Document everything. Tiana had started small after that call. The next time Marcus punched the bedroom door frame and left it bent, she'd snapped a quick picture and emailed it to herself from a secret account she'd made. The night he yelled so loudly at 1 a.m. that Keisha texted, "You okay over there?" She'd screenshot the message and saved it. She'd started writing down dates in the Notes app on her phone. Block quote, June 3rd. You lucky I don't put you out, after I asked where rent money went. August 19th. Threw keys across the room, broke picture frame. September 2nd. Blocked the doorway. Wouldn't let me leave until I said he was right. And so, reading it all in one place had made her stomach drop. But it had also done something else. It had made her realize she wasn't crazy. This wasn't every couple argues. This was a pattern. A pattern that always ended with the same threat. You keep it up and you gon' be out on that lawn. Well, here she is. Only she reminds herself, not quite. Her feet are still on the walkway that leads up to a front door with a deadbolt that only exists because her signature is on a stack of papers. Down at the county clerk's office, Marcus suddenly appears again, this time with her suitcase rolling behind him. He drags it to the top step and kicks it. The suitcase bumps down, plastic wheels scraping, and lands upright at her feet. "There," he says, breathing hard. "Pack it up and go." "I'm not leaving," she hears herself say. The words surprise her. They're small but solid. Marcus narrows his eyes. "Excuse me? This is my house too," she says softly. "My name is on the deed, Marcus." He laughs, a harsh, humorless sound. "You hear this?" he says to no one and everyone, gesturing at the silent windows around them. "She really thinks because the bank put her name first that means something? You got that because of me. You wouldn't have this house if I hadn't pushed us to get it." He's not entirely wrong. He was the one who found the listing. He was the one who insisted they stretch the budget. He was the one who walked through the empty room saying, "I can see it, babe. Our life here." But when the loan officer had cleared his throat delicately and said, "Mr. Johnson, I'm afraid your credit score is going to make this difficult." Mrs. Johnson, on the other hand, it was Tiana who handed over pay stubs and tax returns, who signed the final papers while Marcus walked outside to take a call. "You're not going to make me homeless in a house I pay for," she says now, voice still low but not shaking. His eyes flash. "Watch me," he says. He steps back inside and for the first time slams the door. The bolt slides. The sound is sharper than any word he's thrown so far. The lock clicks into place, and something clicks in her too. This is it. This is the line Ms. Rhonda drew in that bright office months ago. If he throws your things out and locks the door on you, that's not marriage problems anymore. Tiana stands very still on the walkway, staring at the closed door. The wind picks at the edges of a t-shirt on the grass. Her heart is racing, but her thoughts are suddenly clear in a way they haven't been for months. She kneels, opens her suitcase, and rummages through the side pocket of her purse until her fingers brush worn paper, the hotline card, the legal aid business card. Her thumb runs over the raised ink of the attorney's name. Her phone is still in her leggings pocket. Somehow, in all the chaos, she never dropped it. She pulls it out and sees 3 unread messages from Marcus in the last hour, from earlier when she was still inside. "Don't start yapping when I get home. The man texting you better be ready to come get you. You think this is a game?" She screenshots them. Habit now. Then, with a breath that feels like it stretches from the soles of her feet to the top of her head, she dials 3 numbers she's never called in her life. The ringing seems to echo louder than Marcus's yelling ever did. 911, what is your emergency? A calm voice answers. Tiana swallows. My husband just threw my belongings outside and locked me out of my own house, she says, hearing her voice from somewhere far away. My name is the only name on the mortgage. He's yelling, threatening me. I'm barefoot in the yard. I think this is an illegal lockout and a domestic disturbance. The words feel strange in her mouth, like a language she only studied on paper. But they're true. They're more true than we're just arguing. Okay, ma'am, the dispatcher says, and something in her tone softens. Are you in immediate physical danger right now? He's inside, Tiana says. I'm outside, in front of the house. He locked me out. He was grabbing me earlier, but he let go. I'm scared it could get worse. Understood, the dispatcher says. I'm sending deputies to your location. Stay where you are, if it's safe, and don't try to go back inside. If he comes back out and threatens you physically, tell me. Do you have any paperwork showing your name on the house? Yes, Tiana says. I have photos on my phone of the deed and some screenshots of texts and pictures of damage from before. Good, the dispatcher says. Keep your phone on you. The officers will want to see that. I'm going to stay on the line with you until they arrive. Tiana's eyes fill again, but this time the tears are different. Not just humiliation. Not just fear. Something like relief threads through them. Thin and fragile but real. On the other side of the lawn, a curtain twitches. A neighbor peeks, sees her on the phone, sees the clothes, sees the closed door. Maybe they assume she's calling her mama. They have no idea she's calling someone with a badge. Marcus might still think this is his show. But somewhere not too far away, a sheriff's car has just been told her address, her name, and one important fact he doesn't know yet. In the eyes of the law, the person illegally putting someone out today isn't the barefoot woman on the path. It's the man locked inside a house that isn't legally his. His sirens don't come screaming. They don't come at all at first. For a few long minutes, it's just Tiana standing on the walkway, the dispatcher's calm voice in her ear, and the sound of her own pulse rushing like static. Units are on the way, the woman on the phone says. You're doing great. Just keep breathing for me, okay? What's he doing now? Tiana glances at the front window. The curtains twitch. He's inside, she says quietly. Watching. I know him. He's probably pacing. As if on cue, the door jerks open again. Marcus steps out halfway, one hand on the frame, the other holding his phone. He narrows his eyes at her, and then at the phone in her hand. Who you talking to? He calls out. You better not be calling that man from the hospital. Tiana doesn't answer. She doesn't have to answer him, the dispatcher says gently in her ear. Don't engage if you don't feel safe. The officers are close. Marcus comes down one step. His voice drops, no longer blasting for the neighbors, but aimed directly at her like a knife. I know you're not calling the police on me, he says, a low warning. After everything I did for you, after I put this roof over your... The words slam into a wall inside her. It's not the first time he's said that line. It might be the last time she lets it slide into her. Tiana straightens a little. You put me out, she says, her voice just loud enough for him to hear and for whoever's listening on the phone to catch. You locked me out of a house with my name on it. His jaw clenches. For a second, she sees something flicker there. Not fear, exactly, but calculation. A tiny flash of awareness that maybe, just maybe, he's gone a step further than usual. He looks past her, scanning the street. No lights, no patrol cars. Not yet. He scoffs. So you gonna be dramatic now? He mutters. Fine. Stand out here looking crazy. He disappears inside, and this time, when the door closes, she hears the deadbolt again. Ma'am? The dispatcher asks softly. He went back inside? Yes, Tiana says. He asked if I called the police. Okay, you're doing the right thing, the woman replies. The deputies are turning onto your street now. Can you step closer to the curb so they see you right away? Tiana's feet feel heavy as concrete, but she forces them to move. She walks to the outer edge of the lawn, past her scattered clothes, past her rolling suitcase, past the trash bag with her jewelry and memories. Her heart jumps when she spots it, a white SUV turning slowly into the cul-de-sac, green and gold emblem on the door. Lights on the roof silent but unmistakable. The presence of the sheriff's car changes the air. Blinds that were barely open slide shut all the way. A garage door that was inching open stops. Somewhere, a TV gets turned down. The SUV rolls to a stop at the curb. Two deputies step out. One is tall, white, broad-shouldered, maybe mid-40s, his vest stretching over his chest. The other is a black woman closer to Tiana's age, her hair pulled back, expression steady and unreadable. The dispatcher's voice softens. They're there now. I'm gonna let you go, okay? They know the situation. You did good calling us. Thank you, Tiana whispers, and ends the call. The taller deputy approaches first, hands visible, posture non-threatening. Ma'am, you the one who called? He asks. Yes, Tiana says, forcing herself to meet his eyes. I'm Tiana Johnson. He glances at her bare feet, the suitcase, the clothes on the grass, then up at the house. Behind him, the woman deputy is already scanning. Doorway, windows, street, her hand resting near her radio. Can you tell me what happened? The man asks. Tiana swallows. He started throwing my things out, she says, gesturing weakly at the lawn. We got into an argument. He told me to leave. Then he locked me out. My name is the only name on the mortgage. I told the dispatcher that. I'm scared it's going to get worse if I try to go back in. The woman deputy steps a bit closer, eyes kind but focused. Is he armed? Any weapons in the house we should know about? She asks. No guns, Tiana says quickly. He keeps saying he's going to get one, but he hasn't. There's knives in the kitchen, regular stuff. He grabbed me earlier, my arm. He throws things. Hasn't. She stops herself. Old habit. Has he hit you tonight? The woman deputy asks carefully. Not tonight, Tiana says. But he's punched the wall next to my head before. He blocks doors. He scares me. The male deputy nods slowly, eyes moving again over the scene. Okay, he says. Thank you for telling us. Do you have anything that shows your name on the house like you mentioned? Tiana nods, already pulling her phone out. She opens her photos. Scrolls to the picture of the deed she took months ago and somehow never deleted. She hands the phone to the woman deputy, who studies the image, zooming in on Tiana's full name printed neatly next to owner. There's no second line. Is your husband inside? The male deputy asks. Yes, Martis Johnson, Tiana says. He might try to act real calm, he's good at that, but he was yelling, throwing everything. We understand, the woman deputy says, handing back the phone. You stay right here with me, okay? My partner's gonna go talk to him. We just wanted to hear your side first. Tiana nods, her pulse drumming in her ears. The male deputy walks up the path toward the front door. He knocks firmly. Sheriff's office, he calls out. Marcus Johnson, can you come to the door? There's a beat of silence. Then the door opens. Marcus steps out, and in an instant, his whole demeanor is different. Gone is the wild pacing, the throwing, the gloating. His shoulders are relaxed. His voice comes out smooth. Officer, hey, he says, offering a tight smile. Wow, that was fast. I'm sorry y'all had to come out for this. It's just a little marital disagreement. She's emotional. From the lawn, Tiana watches her husband transform into concerned homeowner, like he's slipping into a jacket. The deputy doesn't smile back. Mind if I talk to you out here on the porch? He asks. What's going on today? Pauses. Marcus steps out, leaving the door crack behind him. Yeah, sure, he says, spreading his hands. Like I said, just an argument. She got upset, started packing, threatened to leave, and then changed her mind and called y'all. He laughs lightly, like it's all a misunderstanding. I didn't threaten her or nothing, he adds quickly. I wouldn't hurt my wife. The deputy glances toward the lawn. So how did all her belongings end up outside? He asks. Marcus shrugs. She started throwing stuff first, he lies smoothly. Said she was done, wanted to go. I just helped move some things out. I told her we can talk when she calms down, but she wants to make a show out here. The deputy's expression doesn't change. Did you lock the door behind you at any point and refuse to let her back in? He asks. Marcus's eyes flicker. Just for a second. Yeah, I locked it at one point, he admits. She was yelling, man. I didn't want this turning into a bigger scene. This is my house. I pay the mortgage. I got a right to some peace. Your name on the deed? The deputy asks, casual. Yeah, with hers, Marcus says. From the yard, Tiana clenches her jaw. The woman deputy notices. You okay? She murmurs. He's lying, Tiana whispers. His name isn't on anything. I have proof. We saw, the deputy replies quietly. Just breathe. He doesn't know what we know yet. Up on the porch, the male deputy shifts his weight. Okay, Mr. Johnson, he says. Here's the thing. We've already seen documentation showing your wife's name as the only name on the property. Marcus's smile falters. That must be old paperwork, he says quickly. We fixed that later. I just don't have it on me, obviously. The deputy tilts his head slightly. Can you produce any proof of that? He asks. Email? Photo? Anything? Marcus's jaw tightens. My phone's dead, he says. And anyway, I don't see why that matters. This is a domestic issue. We're married. She lives here because I allow it, not because a piece of paper. That piece of paper is exactly what matters to us, the deputy says, voice still calm. If your name is not on the deed or lease, you do not have the legal authority to lock her out or put her belongings out here. That can be considered an illegal lockout, and combined with a disturbance call, that's something we take seriously. Marcus blinks. He wasn't expecting pushback. He looks past the deputy, toward Tiana and the woman standing next to her in uniform. Their eyes meet. For the first time today, she isn't the one who looks small. A male deputy continues, slow and clear, as if reading from an invisible script. Right now, based on what we've been told and what we can see, this is how it stands, he says. She has the right to be inside this house. You do not have the right to throw her belongings outside and lock the door on her. We're going to give you two options. Marcus's mouth opens, then closes. Option 1, the deputy says. You unlock that door, you let her gather her belongings safely, you calm down, and you leave for the night to let things cool off. We can do a civil standby while she decides what she wants to do next. If you refuse and continue to lock her out, we may have grounds to remove you, and that's going to be a lot worse for you in the long run, especially if she decides to press charges for any physical contact. Marcus's nostrils flare. What charges? He snaps. I didn't touch her. The woman deputy, still beside Tiana, speaks up now, loud enough for both of them to hear. Mr. Johnson, your wife has shown us photos of damage in the house and text messages from you making threats, she says, voice firm. She's also described prior incidents we can document tonight. If she chooses, we can help her file a report. That can include a request for a protective order and you being removed from the residence. We don't want this to escalate. That's why my partner is offering you an option that doesn't end with you in cuffs. Marcus looks like he's been slapped. He glances from one deputy to the other, then back at Tiana, who is standing at the edge of the lawn, arms wrapped around herself, hair slightly frizzed from the wind, bare feet on the cold ground, but not backing away. You called them on me? He says, voice cracking with a mix of anger and disbelief. You really went that far? Something inside her that used to shrink under that tone doesn't. I called them for me, she says quietly. Because you went too far. The street is so silent you can hear the wind rustling the tree leaves. The male deputy clears his throat. Here's what's going to happen, he says. We're going to stand right here, and you're going to decide if you're going to cooperate. If you choose not to, we're going to treat this as an illegal eviction attempt on a legal occupant. That can come with charges and a judge telling you specifically how far you have to stay away from this house. You understand? Marcus's eyes dart around, calculating. This isn't the script he had in mind. He had pictured officers arriving, taking one look at a barefoot, tearful woman and a calm, composed man and saying, "Ma'am, maybe you should go cool off somewhere else." He counted on charm and a steady voice carrying more weight than her trembling one. He did not account for deeds and legal terms and deputies who already saw his wife as the one being wronged. Finally, he exhales sharply through his nose. "So what? You want me to just leave my own house?" he mutters. The male deputy nods. "For tonight, yes, for everyone's safety. If you want to discuss long-term arrangements, you can contact an attorney. But I'm going to be very clear. You are not locking this woman out of her home again. Not on my watch." The woman deputy turns to Tiana. "Do you feel safe with him coming back tonight after we leave?" she asks quietly. The question lands like a stone in Tiana's chest. She doesn't answer right away. In her mind, she sees Marcus's face from a dozen different nights. Eyes wild, jaw clenched, fist slamming the doorframe. She sees the way he looked earlier, dropping her grandmother's necklace into a trash bag. She thinks of Ms. Rhonda's voice. "You don't have to wait until it gets worse." "No," Tiana says, surprising herself with how steady it sounds. "I don't." The male deputy hears her and nods once, like he expected that. "Okay then," he says, turning back to Marcus. "Based on her statement, we're going to ask you to leave the property for at least the next 24 hours. We'll document that. If you come back and cause a disturbance, you can be arrested. Do you understand?" Marcus throws his hands up, a bitter laugh escaping. "So that's how it is?" he says. "She cries and you'll take her side, and I gotta pack a bag like some stranger?" The woman deputy's gaze sharpens. "Sir, you chose to put her belongings on the lawn and lock her out of a house where she is the lawful occupant," she says. "We're not taking sides, we're enforcing the law. You can live here as a married couple peacefully, or a judge can decide later who gets what. But tonight, you lost the privilege of deciding who stands on this walkway." The words hang in the air like a new kind of weather. For a second, nobody moves. Then Marcus scoffs again. But it sounds thinner now. "Whatever," he mutters. "I'll go. This is ridiculous." He pushes past the deputy and stomps back inside, leaving the door wide open. The male deputy stays on the porch, angled so he can see both the doorway and Tiana, who is still by the curb with the female deputy. "Ma'am," the woman deputy says softly, "do you want to grab some shoes and anything important while we're here? We can walk you in." The idea of stepping back into the house makes Tiana's stomach twist. But the image of herself waking up tomorrow with no work shoes, no ID badge, no car keys, that's worse. "Yes," she says, nodding quickly. "I need my shoes, my work bag, my documents, and if my jewelry box is still anywhere." "We'll find it," the deputy says. "You're not going in alone." They walk together up the path. The sight of her own front door up close feels strange, like visiting a place from a dream. Inside, Marcus is in the hallway, pulling clothes from the closet, stuffing them haphazardly into a duffel bag. His jaw pulses as he stuffs a hoodie in and yanks the zipper. He pointedly doesn't look at her. "Mr. Johnson," the male deputy says calmly from the doorway, "you've got 10 minutes to get what you need for the night. Basic clothes, toiletries. Nothing from her side of the closet, nothing she might need for work. You understand?" Yeah, Marcus mutters. "I ain't taking her stuff." "Good," the deputy replies. "We'll be waiting right here. Ma'am, go ahead." Tiana steps sideways down the hall, putting as much distance between herself and Marcus as possible, the female deputy between them like a shield. In the bedroom, the mess he left is obvious. A drawer half out, hangers on the floor, her pillow tossed aside. Her suitcase sits by the bed where he dragged it earlier, the lid still unzipped. She moves quickly, adrenaline giving her hands a strange precision. She pulls on a pair of slip-on sneakers, grabs her work bag from the chair, checks that her wallet and ID badge are inside. She opens the top drawer of her nightstand and snatches the small folder where she keeps original copies of important documents: birth certificate, social security card, mortgage statement. She hesitates for a second, then pulls out the printed photo of the deed with her name, folds it, and slides it into the folder. The jewelry box is missing. Her heart lurches. She turns to the deputy. He threw my jewelry box into a trash bag, she whispers. It had my grandma's necklace in it. We'll ask him where it is before he leaves, the deputy assures her. If he damaged it, that's more documentation. On her way back down the hall, Tiana passes Marcus. He finally looks up. His eyes are dark, simmering with a fury that no deputy can fully erase. You really gonna do me like this? He says under his breath. In front of everybody? Call the sheriff on me? You think they're gonna be here every time you don't like what I say? The female deputy's head snaps toward him. Sir, she warns. Tiana stops. For the first time, she doesn't drop her gaze. I think, she says quietly, that you're not going to throw my life on the lawn and lock me out again. That's what I think. Their eyes lock. There's a new understanding there, on both sides. He finishes shoving clothes into his bag, zips it with more force than necessary, and slings it over his shoulder. You ain't seen the last of me, he mutters. Maybe not, the male deputy says from the doorway, but you won't be seeing this house again tonight. They walk him out. Tiana stays just inside the threshold, clutching her folder and bag, heart thudding, as she watches the man who's always claimed this space as his territory step down onto the walkway as if it belongs to someone else now. Because legally, it does. At the curb, the deputies have a few more words with him, explaining in measured tones about reports, documentation, how returning tonight could lead to an arrest. One of them hands him a card with a case number. Marcus yanks it from their hand, shoves it into his pocket, and heads toward his car, muttering under his breath. He doesn't glance back at Tiana. The engine starts. The car pulls away. The cul-de-sac slowly exhales. The male deputy returns to the doorway, hat in his hands now. Ma'am, he says, voice a little gentler than before. We're going to write this up. My partner's going to give you some information on protective orders and local resources. If he comes back tonight and starts anything, you call us right away. Don't open the door. Okay? Tiana nods, her throat tight. Thank you, she manages. I didn't know y'all could do that. Make him leave. The woman deputy offers a small, knowing smile. A lot of people don't, she says. They think whoever shouts my house the loudest is the one with the power. But the paperwork tells a different story. She hands Tiana a pamphlet, county logo on the front, words like order of protection and legal aid scattered across the page. And if you want to go down to the courthouse tomorrow and talk about a protective order, this will tell you how, she adds. You don't have to decide tonight. But you don't have to wait until the next time either. Next time. The phrase curls in Tiana's stomach like smoke. She glances back into the house, the living room with the sagging couch, the TV, the crooked picture frames. It feels different. Not because anything has physically changed, but because, for the first time, she's standing in the doorway and the person being told to leave wasn't her. Do you have somewhere safe to sleep tonight? The deputy asks. Tiana looks around slowly. For the first time in hours, she sees more than scattered clothes and broken pride. She sees her couch, her bed, her locks. Yes, she says softly. I think I do. The house felt too quiet after the deputies left. No more boots on the walkway. No more radios crackling. No more deep voices explaining the law in calm, measured tones. Just the tick of the kitchen clock, and the faint tap of a hanger swaying on the bush outside. For a few seconds, Tiana just stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, looking at the mess in the yard for new eyes. An hour ago, this was a stage for her humiliation. Now it was a crime scene of a different kind. Evidence of something the report would later call an attempted illegal lockout. You want to grab those clothes before the dew hits them? The woman deputy asked gently. We'll stay while you do. Tiana nodded, throat tight. Barefoot, she stepped back out into the yard. The concrete was cold, but not as shocking as before. She picked her way through the scattered pieces of her life, a bra halfway under a bush, her favorite scrubs pants near the curb, that pink hoodie way out by the mailbox. Every time she bent down, she forced herself to pause just long enough to lift her phone and take a photo. Not for social media. For herself. For the file that had started months ago with pictures of dents in door frames and shattered glass. Now it would have a new entry. Strong November 29th. He threw my clothes on the lawn. Deputies responded. They made him leave. Strong November. The woman deputy helped her shake the dirt from a blouse, quiet and practical. At one point, she picked up a pair of sneakers from the grass, knocked them together, and set them by the front step. "You don't have to stay," Tiana murmured. "I can handle the rest." "That's what we're here for," the deputy replied. "To make sure you don't have to handle everything alone." A car door shut softly across the street. Tiana looked up. Keisha had come out again, still in her scrubs top, jacket thrown over it now. She hovered at the edge of her driveway, eyes flicking between the patrol SUV and the laundry on the grass, and faster when she saw Tiana's face up close. "Girl," she breathed. "You okay?" Tiana opened her mouth, then closed it. She didn't have a word big enough for what she was feeling. Shaken, hollow, humiliated, relieved, angry, all stacked on top of each other like plates about to tip. "I called," she managed, "on him." Keisha's eyes filled. "Good," she said simply. "'Bout time somebody else in this house had backup. And trash bags with clothes, shoes, and things that hadn't fit back into her arms. When they got to the jewelry bag, the black trash bag Marcus had tied with a hard knot, the male deputy stepped in. "Let's open this together," he said, "just in case." He slit the plastic with a pocket knife. Inside were tangled necklaces, earrings, a watch box, and her jewelry box tipped on its side. Tiana's breath caught when she saw the little heart charm halfway out of the lid, gold chain knotted around it. She reached in and picked it up carefully. The chain was intact. She closed her fingers around it until the tiny metal heart pressed into her palm. "Take a picture of that too," the woman deputy suggested quietly, "just to show where he put it." Tiana did. By the time the deputies left, after another run-through of paperwork, card with case number, instructions on emergency calls, the sky was turning that bluish gray it takes on just before full dark. Keisha stayed. "I'm not leaving you alone tonight," she said, already kicking off her shoes at the door like she lived there. Inside, the house felt tilted. Everything was where it had always been. The couch, the coffee table with a water ring that never came out, the TV, the picture frames on the wall. But the air was different. Tiana moved through the living room like it belonged to someone else, touching the back of the couch, the end of the dining table. Keisha watched her with soft eyes. "Sit," she said finally. "I'll make tea." Tiana almost laughed. Tea, as if this was just a bad day at work. But the familiar ritual helped. The sound of water running, the clink of mugs, the smell of mint rising with the steam, it grounded her. When she sat on the couch, blanket around her shoulders, Keisha joined her, leg tucked under, mug in both hands. "I heard the deputy say something about a report," Keisha said. "You gonna follow up?" Tiana stared into her tea. "I don't even know where to start," she confessed. "I feel like if I move wrong, I'll make everything worse. You know how he is. He's gonna say I ruined his life if I take this any further." Keisha tilted her head. "He threw your life on the lawn," she said gently. "He did that all by himself. You calling people who can write his actions down in ink? That's just you telling the truth a little louder." The words landed somewhere deep. Tiana set her mug down and rubbed her hands over her face. "I talked to this lady once," she admitted, "at that resource center by the bus station. Miss Rhonda. She gave me cards, told me about protective orders and stuff. I never thought I would actually need it." "You got her number?" Keisha asked. Tiana nodded, reaching for her work bag. The cards were still there, tucked into the side pocket, ink a little worn at the edges from months of being carried but never used. She dialed the hotline number with shaking hands. A calm voice answered, different from Ms. Ronda's, but with the same steady warmth. Crisis line, the counselor said. How can I help you tonight? Tiana hesitated. I'm not sure if this is an emergency, she said. He's gone for now. The sheriff made him leave. But earlier he threw my clothes outside and locked me out of my own house. My name is the only name on the deed. They said it was an illegal lockout. I don't know what to do next. The counselor asked gentle questions. Had there been other incidents? Any physical harm? Any threats? Tiana found herself talking more than she meant to. About door frames punched, about bank money disappearing, about voice messages she'd saved that sounded like distant thunder now. You did a brave thing calling 911, the counselor said. And you did another brave thing calling us. If you want to keep yourself safe long term, the next step might be a protective order. I can walk you through what that looks like. They talked through the process, going to the courthouse, filling out a petition, attaching photos and screenshots, asking for temporary possession of the home. Doesn't mean everything is over right away, the counselor said, but it puts a legal wall between you and his temper. It says on paper, this is not okay. Tiana hung up an hour later with a list scribbled on the back of an old receipt, deed photo, text screenshots, photos of damage, today's report number, go to courthouse early. Keisha read it over her shoulder. I can drive you, she offered. Tomorrow? You don't need to be in that building alone. When the house finally went quiet for the night, Tiana showered. The hot water stung her skin, but the sting felt clean. In the bathroom mirror, she saw faint red marks on her arm where his fingers had squeezed earlier, the beginnings of a bruise blooming just under the skin. She lifted her phone and took one more picture. Then she went to bed alone for the first time in a long time, without wondering what mood the man next to her would wake up in. Sleep came in fragments. Every sound pulled her halfway awake. Car doors outside, someone's music down the block, the ice maker clicking, but no key turned in her lock. No heavy footsteps crossed her hall. When the alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., she barely slept, but somehow she felt more clear-headed than she had in weeks. The house was still. For once, stillness didn't feel like walking on eggshells. It felt like space. There was the courthouse smelled like paper and coffee and nerves. Tiana and Keisha walked through the metal detector, trays clattering with keys and phones, belts being unbuckled and rebuckled all around them. On the second floor, the sign read, Protective Orders Family Division. The waiting area was a long row of plastic chairs and people who carried the same tired, tight look she'd seen in the mirror last night. A woman with a small child playing quietly on the floor. An older man with a folder clutched to his chest. A teenager staring at his shoes. When the clerk called her name, Ms. Johnson, Tiana's stomach flipped. She stepped up to the window. The clerk slid a stack of forms toward her. Fill these out as completely as you can, she said, bored but not unkind. Be specific about what happened. If law enforcement was called, put the report number here. When you're done, we'll see if the judge can hear you today. Tiana sat at a small table, pen in hand, and stared at the first blank line. Describe the most recent incident. Her mind flashed back to the lawn, the clothes, the deputies, Marcus's face when he realized who the law was actually backing. She started writing. What began as bullet points turned into sentences. Sentences turned into a narrative. He threw my belongings outside and locked me out of a home where my name is the only one on the deed. He has threatened to put me on the street many times before. He grabs my arms, blocks doors, punches walls next to me. I am afraid it will escalate. The last paragraph. She attached photos, printed at the courthouse kiosk, while Keisha fed quarters into the machine. The dented doorframe, the broken picture, the lawn scattered with clothes, the bruise forming on her skin. She added screenshots of texts. At the bottom, there was a box. Do you wish to remain in the residence? Her hand didn't shake when she checked yes. When she turned the packet in, the clerk flipped through it, nodding once. Have a seat, she said. We'll call you for the hearing. Hearing? Tiana repeated, heart rate kicking up again. Temporary protective order, the clerk explained. Judge will talk to you. It's quick. He may issue something today that lasts until a full hearing. Keisha squeezed her hand. You got this, she whispered. You already did the hardest part. An hour later, Tiana found herself standing in a small courtroom. No jury, no gallery full of people. Just a judge in a black robe, a clerk, a deputy by the door, and a few other petitioners waiting their turn. Miss Johnson, the judge said, glancing at the file, come on up. Her knees felt weak, but she walked to the front, clutching her folder like a life preserver. The judge skimmed her paperwork, flipping past the photos, the report number, the checked boxes. You're asking for a temporary protective order against your husband, Marcus Johnson, he said. You're also requesting temporary exclusive possession of the marital residence. Is that right? Yes, Your Honor, Tiana said. Her voice came out softer than she intended, but it didn't break. The judge looked up over his glasses. Tell me, in your own words, why you feel you need this order, he said. The room went quiet. Tiana could feel her heart pounding in her throat. She thought of all the times she'd minimized the story. He's just stressed. We argue like everyone else. It's not that bad. She didn't do that today. She told him about the lawn, about being barefoot in the cold, about her work clothes scattered, about the necklace in the trash bag, about the deadbolt clicking behind her. She mentioned the deputies, their words about illegal lockout, the evidence they'd seen. She talked, careful, not oversharing, but not hiding, about the months of threats, the pattern of my house speeches, the way he'd trapped her in doorways and punched just close enough to the wall to make her flinch. The judge listened, expression unreadable. Has he been charged with any offenses before? He asked. Not yet, she said. Yesterday is the first time I called. They wrote a report, gave me this case number. She held out the card. The clerk took it to the judge. He nodded, making a note. Is he here today? The judge asked. Tiana's stomach clenched. She glanced at the back of the room. No Marcus. Just a man in a baseball cap waiting for his own hearing. A woman with sunglasses on indoors. And Keisha in the last row, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes on Tiana. No, Your Honor, Tiana said. He's not here. The judge looked at her for a long moment. Johnson, he said finally, from what I'm reading and hearing, there is a clear pattern of controlling and intimidating behavior, culminating in an illegal attempt to remove you from a residence where you are the documented owner. That is not acceptable. I am going to grant your request for a temporary protective order. Tiana's breath caught. This order will state that he may not threaten, harass, or come near you, the judge continued. He may not come within a certain distance of your home or your place of work. If he needs to retrieve personal belongings, it must be arranged through law enforcement with a civil standby. You will have temporary exclusive possession of the home until a further hearing. If he violates this order, call 911 and show them a copy. Do you understand? Tiana could only nod. Yes, Your Honor, she whispered. The clerk handed her a printed packet a few minutes later. The judge's signature at the bottom, the county seal stamped in blue. The words at the top made her throat tighten. Temporary Family Violence Protective Order. It felt heavy in her hands, not because of the paper, because of what it represented. The law standing between her and the next time he decided to swing a threat like a hammer. Pause. Outside the courtroom, the legal aid attorney she'd spoken to on the phone weeks ago was sitting at a folding table with a sign that said, Free Legal Clinic. The old lady was on top of her and gestured. He nodded. He had been studying the law for weeks and knew judgment rather than a process. You want to talk about next steps? Housing, finances, maybe divorce? The word still hit hard. Divorce. She wasn't ready to untangle that fully yet. But she was ready for one part. I need to make sure he can't use my money against me, she said. He already spends bill money on his own stuff. I don't want him draining our account if he gets mad about this. The attorney slid a notepad toward her. First thing, he said, get your direct deposit moved to an account that is only in your name. If you have joint accounts, consider opening a new one at a different bank so he doesn't know the details. We can't give you personal financial advice, but from a legal standpoint, separating your income is smart, especially if you own the home in your name. You're paying for that roof. You need to protect the funds that keep it over your head. He helped her make a rough checklist, circling the urgent items: new bank account, update payroll at work, get certified copy of deed, ask deputies to be present if he returns for belongings. 2 hours later, Tiana sat in a small office at her bank, across from a black woman in a navy blazer with a nameplate that read, Ms. Coleman, branch manager. I'm sorry you're going through this, Ms. Coleman said, after Tiana explained in a low voice why she needed a new account and why she wanted his name removed as an authorized user on anything connected to her. Can you do that? Tiana asked. Without him here? Ms. Coleman pulled up her file. These accounts are in your name only, she said. He's listed as someone who knows about them, but he is not an owner. I can put a note on your profile that no information is to be given to him without your written consent. We can also issue you a new debit card and change your online access credentials. Then we open a new account, move your direct deposit, and slowly transfer what you need, documenting everything. That way, if he tries to claim you stole something, the paper trail shows it was yours. Tiana felt tears prick her eyes again, but this time they were mixed with something like gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. Miss Coleman gave her a sympathetic half-smile. You'd be surprised how many women sit in that chair and tell me a version of your story, she said. You're not the first. You won't be the last. But you are one of the ones doing something about it. That matters. Tyne and an extra debit card together. The scissors made a clean, satisfying crunch through the plastic. When Tiana walked out of the bank an hour later, she had a new account, a folder of stamped forms, and a protective order rolled up in her bag like a quiet shield. By the time she got home, the sun was dipping low again. Keisha met her at the door with takeout and a curious look. How'd it go? She asked. Tiana set her bag on the table and pulled out the protective order, smoothing it flat. It wasn't just the sheriff removing him from the house, she said slowly. The judge did too, on paper. She slid the document across the table. Keisha scanned it, eyebrows rising. Whew, she said softly. That's official. Tiana nodded. She went to the printer, made 3 copies, one for her bag, one for a folder by the front door, one to tuck into the glove compartment of her car. She took photos of each page and emailed them to the secret account she'd been using to store evidence. Then she walked to the front door. The lock looked the same. But when she turned the deadbolt, there was a new meaning to the sound. It wasn't just a barrier keeping someone out. It was a boundary she had put in place with witnesses, case numbers, signatures, and seals. Marcus had thrown her clothes on the lawn and tried to turn her into a guest in her own life. An hour later, the sheriff removed him. By the end of the next day, the law itself had started to redraw the lines of the house. And this time, her name wasn't just a talking point in an argument. It was the foundation. Months have a strange way of stretching and shrinking after a night like that. Some days, Tiana would look at the calendar on her fridge and swear it had only been a week since the sheriff's SUV pulled up to the curb and told Marcus to leave. On other days, the memory felt like it belonged to a different woman entirely. Someone she could almost watch from the outside, standing barefoot on the lawn with her life scattered in front of her. Life didn't turn into a movie montage after the protective order. There were still bills. There was still laundry, still work, still those quiet hours at 3 a.m. when your brain replays everything you said and everything you didn't. But the energy in the house had changed. She noticed it first in small ways. The silence stopped feeling like a threat. No more listening for the sound of a key in the lock and trying to guess his mood from the way it turned. No more bracing every time the garage door rumbled, wondering if the man walking in would be the joking Marcus with food in his hands or the cold one with a list of complaints. Now, when she came home from the late shift, the only thing waiting was the soft hum of the fridge and the porch light she'd remembered to leave on for herself. Keisha kept her promise. For the first few weeks, she treated Tiana's house like a second home, dropping by after work with leftovers, sitting at the kitchen table while Tiana filled out forms, practicing how she'd answer if Marcus ever called from a blocked number. He tried. The first missed call popped up 2 days after the order was served. Unknown. Then another. Then a text from a new number. "We need to talk. You really went to court on me? Answer the phone." This is between man and wife, not judges. Stared at the screen. Fingers hovering. Old habits twitched. Maybe if I just explain. Maybe if I keep the peace. But the thick packet on the table said something different. She picked up the protective order and read the line aloud. Respondent shall have no direct or indirect contact with petitioner, including phone calls, texts, emails, or messages through third parties. When Keisha leaned over her shoulder. "That's his problem," she said flatly. "Not yours. Keep that. If he keeps texting, that's a violation. More documentation." Tiana blocked the number. When a mutual friend messaged her, "He's saying you overreacted. Why you do him like that?" Tiana replied with the same sentence she'd practiced with the legal aid attorney. "There's a protective order in place. I won't discuss him with anyone who's carrying his messages." She hit send, then immediately muted the chat. Every boundary she drew felt like learning a new language. At work, she told her supervisor what was happening. Not every detail, just enough. "If anyone comes by asking for me," she said, voice low, "or calls asking when I clock out, please don't give that information. I can bring a copy of the order." Her supervisor's face softened. "You bring it," she said. "We'll put it in your file. You did the right thing going to the court. And if you ever need someone to walk you to your car, you ask." The second court date came a month later. This one wasn't just a quick hearing with a stack of papers. It was the full order hearing where both sides could show up, tell their version, and the judge would decide whether to extend protection long term. Tiana's stomach was in knots that whole week. She almost didn't eat the day of the hearing, hands trembling too much to butter toast. But when she walked into the courtroom and saw Marcus sitting at the other table, it was like seeing a storm cloud that had finally moved off the house and got stuck over a parking lot instead. He was dressed in his best shirt, hair cut sharp, expression calm. If a stranger walked in, they might have thought he was the one asking for protection. So composed, so put together. He tried to work that angle. When the judge asked him to speak, Marcus kept his voice low and measured. "Your Honor, we had an argument," he said. "Like any couple. I admit, I raised my voice. I regret that. But I never put hands on her. I never intended to harm her. She's making it sound a lot worse than it was because she's mad. I pay most of the bills. I just wanted some peace in my own house." He left out the lawn. He left out the trash bags. He left out the deputies explaining the words illegal lockout. Tiana didn't interrupt. She let him finish his speech, let him paint himself as the calm man in a storm. Then the judge turned to her. "Miss Johnson," he said, "anything you want to add to what you told me last time?" She nodded, heartbeat climbing, but her voice, surprisingly, did not shake. "It wasn't just an argument," she said. "He threw my clothes outside and locked the door on me while I was barefoot. He told the deputies it was his house. even though my name is the only one on the deed. That's a pattern, Your Honor. Him using money and the house to control where I stand. I was afraid if I let it keep going, it would turn into something worse. The judge flipped through the file again. The photos from that day were still there. The lawn, the clothes, the bruise on her arm, the deputy's report about his behavior when they arrived. Mr. Johnson, the judge said slowly, it is very concerning to me that you describe this as a simple argument, when the documentation shows you attempted to force your spouse out of a home where she is the sole documented owner. That goes beyond raised voices. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed quiet. This court's priority is safety, the judge continued. Not who pays which bill, not whose version of events sounds smoother. Miss Johnson has provided evidence of controlling behavior and an attempted illegal eviction. I find that sufficient to extend the protective order for 12 months. The sound of the gavel was soft, just a tap. But to Tiana, it might as well have been thunder. The judge added more words that would later become her invisible armor. He was barred from coming within a set distance of the house. He could not contact her directly or indirectly. If he wanted to retrieve personal belongings, it had to be scheduled at a specific time with law enforcement present. When they walked out of the courtroom, Marcus's mask slipped. He caught her eye across the hallway, his friendly face replaced by the look she recognized from 100 kitchen arguments. The one that said, "This isn't over." Only this time, there were deputies and metal detectors and a piece of paper that said the opposite. She didn't stop. She kept walking. Outside, the air felt sharp and clear. Over the next few months, consequences started to find him without her lifting a finger. The illegal lockout and the protective order hearing became part of his record. That record made it a lot harder for him to slide into certain jobs that needed a clean background check. Mutual friends slowly stopped repeating his version of the story when they realized Tiana wasn't going to play the guilt game. "I'm not saying y'all gotta pick sides," she told one of them gently, when he started with "he says" for the third time. "But my boundary is this. If we're gonna talk, it's not gonna be about what he wants you to tell me." Some friendships fell away. New ones grew. At church, an older woman who'd quietly watched this all unfold started sitting next to her more often, slipping little folded notes into Tiana's hand with Bible verses and affirmations written in looping cursive. At work, a younger nurse who'd overheard some of the story whispered one day in the break room, "My cousin's going through something like that. Would you talk to her? She doesn't believe she can call anybody." Tiana hesitated. She didn't feel like an expert. She still woke up some nights, remembering the way his face looked when the deputies told him he had to leave his own front yard. But she said yes. She met the cousin for coffee, listened more than she spoke, and at the end handed over two things, the legal aid clinic's card and Ms. Coleman's bank branch hours. "He is making a point to talk to me, asking for someone like Miss Coleman," she said quietly. "Ask for someone like Miss Coleman. There's more of them out there than you think." At home, little by little, she reclaimed the space. She took down the loud-framed quote he'd bought, "My house, my rules," and replaced it with one her mom gave her, "Peace is also a decision." She painted one accent wall a soft, warm color he would have called too bright. Keisha helped her choose curtains that weren't heavy blackout brown, but airy white that let morning light in like water. She rearranged the bedroom so the bed wasn't smack against the wall he used to punch when he was angry. The first night in the new setup, she lay on her back and listened. No footsteps, no pacing. Just the hum of the ceiling fan and the distant bark of a dog down the street. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. A notification from the Sheriff's Department app she'd downloaded popped up. Protective order check-in reminder. 90 days remaining. Instead of anxiety, she felt something else. Gratitude. For paper. For signatures. For neighbors who called from their kitchen windows. For branch managers with scissors. For deputies who knew the difference between my house, and my name is on the deed. One afternoon, months later, she was raking leaves in the front yard when the familiar white SUV turned slowly into the cul-de-sac. Her chest tightened for a second. Old reflex. But this time, the lights weren't on. The engine idled near the end of the street. The male deputy from that night stepped out, followed by the same black woman who'd stood with Tiana on the lawn while she picked up her life piece by piece. They weren't there for her. They were there for the neighbor at the corner, dealing with a noisy teenager and some broken windows. But when the woman deputy saw her, she smiled. "You doing okay?" she called, walking a few steps up the sidewalk. Tiana nodded, roughly wiping leaf dust from her cheeks with the back of her hand. "Better than that night," she said. "A lot better." The deputy glanced at the house, at the new curtains, at the absence of chaos on the lawn. "Looks that way," she said. "Just wanted you to know, we see you. Not just when you call. We see you when you keep going too." After they left, Tiana stood on her porch, rake in hand, looking at the square of land that had once felt like a trap. Now it looked smaller, not because it had shrunk, but because she had grown. There were still hard days, days when a song on the radio or a smell in the hallway of the grocery store would set her back inside a memory of a slammed door or a sarcastic laugh. But there were also new days, days when she drove up to her own driveway and didn't flinch at the sight of her front door. Days when she texted Keisha not because she was scared, but because she wanted to share a recipe or a meme. One evening, she sat at that same kitchen table where so many arguments had started, laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She'd been journaling more, writing down what happened, not just for court, but for herself. Tonight, though, she opened a different window. New video. She looked into the little camera at the top of the screen. She'd decided to start sharing some of her story online. Not the legal details, not the names, but the pattern. The way control can hide inside phrases like "my house" and "my money." The way throwing clothes on the lawn isn't just drama, it's a red flag with a handle. Her voice was a little shaky when she hit record, but she spoke anyway. "I used to think calling for help meant I had failed," she said softly. "Like if I just tried harder, I could keep everything inside the four walls of our house. The night my clothes landed on the lawn, I thought it was the end of my dignity. Turned out, it was the beginning of me finding my voice, and the night the sheriff reminded both of us whose name is on my front door." She stopped the recording, saved it, and sat back. The house was quiet. But this time, quiet didn't mean waiting to see who walks in. It meant choosing who I let into my story. So, what would you have done in Tiana's place? Have you ever seen someone try to use a house, a paycheck, or a set of keys to control another person? I'd love to hear where you're listening from and what part of this story hit you the hardest. Was it the moment the sheriff asked Marcus to leave? The judge putting it on paper? Or that quiet scene in the bank manager's office with the scissors? If you want more real-life inspired stories like this, where women find their courage in the middle of chaos, you can support the channel by leaving a like, sharing this video with a friend who might need it, or sending a super. Thanks so I can keep bringing you more. Thank you so much for your sweet support. On the screen, you'll see 2 more life stories I highly recommend. They're also about hidden strength and quiet justice. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next life story. With love and respect.